Hey Canada, you notice that price of gas at the pumps just keeps edging up more and more, slowly, incrementally, but it's always edging up more and more, right? And this is they're talking about it now, of course, in the media where you talk about the OPEC cuts. But I mean, even the OPEC cuts, you will see that this will be proven out once again after all these manipulations, right? Even if you go back to the early 1970s with the whole price fuck up and why we ended up with piece of shit cars in the mid 70s and 80s, right? And when you talk about, well, that was the supposed oil embargo back then, or if you go to the 2008 financial crisis, which back then, prior to that, oil had reached a peak of let me find that number again here. It had peaked at $147 per barrel, right? And then it dropped off like a cliff because, like I say, Saudi Arabia and trying to gain their market share and the OPECs and all this. But we've seen this spike, this peak in this valley, this massive, like, no, there's no actual true economic fundamentals there. It's, well, the market fundamentals kick in when the speculators and manipulators just kind of take their hands off the wheel just for a second. That's when you see where the prices start to collapse and crash. But they're always looking to dig their fingers and put their fingers back on the controls of power. And we're seeing now, even though they're trying to dictate and manipulate the prices up further, we're still only, I think it's like 54 bucks. I checked earlier today. Yeah, it's let me just double check here. Yeah, 54 bucks a barrel for West Texas Intermediate. So at $54 a barrel, at best, even if you used the correlation that used to be used prior to the last big fuck up we had, the big crash that market manipulators jumped and pounced at that opportunity. But even if you use that as the base premise, well, when we were paying what, $1.30, $1.40 a liter, and then the price of oil back then was what, 120 bucks a barrel. So at $54, if that correlation still existed properly, then we'd be paying 65, 70 cents, maybe, not even that, per liter. You're not seeing that, are you? Like I said, they keep gouging and digging little bits every time these kind of price corrections or these big fluctuations. Now the consumer, like, we did benefit for a short time. What was it? Probably close to a year almost, that we got a lot better prices to fill up our cars for a small time frame, for that short little that narrow window of opportunity we had. But look at what they're doing now, and with the price of oil per barrel being much lower than they were paying prior, look at how much more benefit, how much more profit they're making as a result of these increased gas prices. Like I said, it all had to do with whether they were catching on the back end or the front end. So the retail, your refined gas and your retails and your stations where you actually buy and fill up, or the oil producers or the refineries that brings in the raw crude or the bitumen and refines it. There's a profit margin in each stage along that entire, from oil being extracted from the ground to the point time when it gets in there's many people along the way that benefits financially. Now, the big oil companies pretty much own that whole infrastructure, even right down to your lowly independent gas station. They have to buy it from the big oil. There's only what? Less than, 6 or 7 of them in the entire world, well, Western world or whatever. But if you see now, they're obviously, that whole market manipulation, speculation, all in that crash, well, I think that was done, and we're starting to see now, that was done on purpose, so now they can gain even more benefit, right? Now, without you catching on right away, because it's going to take more and more time for them to do so. A lot of people, especially market speculators or people that were invested in these oil companies, when they saw that crash and they probably jumped out of it, well, like I said, there's a lot of regular people that are losing constantly all the time from these things. But the central planners or these corporate fucks or these, like OPEC, which is just government and companies, which is just amalgamated into one, right? Because these OPEC countries are literally, the government makes the choice, not the company, because the company and the country they're all one. But we're seeing now, and it's constantly being proven to us all the time, that when these things happen, it's never as a means to help or benefit you as the lowly consumer. It's as a means for them to find other market forces, not proper market forces, but ways to manipulate and distort that market so they can benefit themselves. And are they passing on to you as the consumer? No, because we're seeing prices keep going up. So while they benefit, once again, the cronies, the corporatists, and the government fucks that get the tax, right? Because think about gas. Whether it's the corporations or the oil execs or the government, they all make, and in Canada, we have 3 levels of that. So your local, your provincial, and your federal fuel taxes. Everybody's dipping hands into that big pool of wealth at your expense as the consumer. And without you, they would all, without you as the consumer, well, I can stand with a jar of oil in my hand, but if nobody wants it, well, what's it worth? Not a whole lot, is it? So you are the one that gets to make it worth anything by your demand, and they're using your demand as a means to making them wealthy at your expense. That should disturb you. It should disturb you tremendously. I hope people understand and wake up and start delving in and digging into this whole price speculations and OPEC cartel and the oil prices. Start to better understand some of the fundamentals that's going on, because this is another segment of our society, of our economy, that we really need to fight against and bring things back into being properly, so that people can understand properly what things are worth, right? Because that's another thing we always forget, is when you manipulate the worth of these things, you're manipulating what a person's labor, their intellect, and their ability to provide for themselves worth as well. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.